Power, an artist talk with Yee I-Lann. Welcome, I-Lann. Yee is family name, I-Lann first name. I refer to I-Lann as I-Lann. Welcome to Minnesota Makoche, to the University of Minnesota's Art Department within the College of Liberal Arts. The talk today will be from now about 50 minutes, after which we will play the full version of a recent performance and video in case you stay around to chat and want to see that. The University of Minnesota is located on traditional, ancestral, and contemporary lands of Indigenous people, including the Dakota and Anishinaabe, and a crossroads and home for numerous other Indigenous communities. Our art center, the Regis Art Center, if you're here for the first time, is near the Mississippi, or Hahawaka. My name is Erin Gleason. I'm a lecturer here in this department, and I'm also the director of FD13 Residency for the Arts. So I'm wearing two hats today. We're collaborating, bringing together FD13 and the Visiting Artists and Critics program here in the department. I-Lann is also here through the generous sponsorship of a dear friend of ours, so I thank him. I also want to thank Russ White and Sonia Peterson and Karen Hasselman for their help pulling this together. So I'm just going to tell you a bit about I-Lann, and then a little bit about the talk, and then we will start. So I-Lann is born in 1971 in Kota Kinabalu, Sabah, Malaysia, Borneo. She lives there at home, back at home, as the Malaysian daughter of a New Zealand-born mother and Sino Kadazan father. Yee I-Lann draws on her own transnational and transcultural heritage to present counter-narratives in the colonial record. Her work across media is situated at the nexus of power in and from Southeast Asia, and it explores the impact of historical memory and social experience. I-Lann has, I won't list all the number of things I-Lann is doing even right now, but the Istanbul Biennial is about to open tomorrow, and a solo in New York just inaugurated the Silver Lens space in New York. Many things going on, Aichi Triennial in Japan, et cetera, et cetera. I-Lann and I have known each other for a decade and a half. We met as co-curators and co-conspirators, I believe, in the Singapore Biennial. We were on this cohort of 29 curators, 27 curators, and we got up to the rebellious clan, and we've been connected and working together ever since. I'm thrilled to have her here in Minneapolis on the occasion of her solo exhibition at the Minneapolis Institute of Art with the same title, Picturing Power. And this lecture is a starting point for I-Lann to reflect on the technologies, methodologies, architecture, and linguistics of the table and the mat as they relate to colonial and decolonial actions and power. So I want to give you the floor, the mat. Please come on up. So thanks, thanks again for being here, sharing time with us.
Yeah. I'm short, so I have to climb up very elegantly on this stool.
And this thing is heavy, so there we go.
Yeah. Thank you so much, Erin, for organizing all of this and for inviting me to be part of your community here and also the FD13 residency. I'm so thrilled to be here. I really am, to see the show at MIA. And to meet you. I do want to, first of all, recognize that this land of yours around here with all these lakes, that sense of land and place and water, the unusual pocketed fluidity through the Mississippi, which to me is a mythic river somewhere over there, of Tom Sawyer and Huckleberry Finn and books that I grew up with as well. And it's that the sense of this place is really strong to me. And I don't know the stories, I don't know the people, but I can feel the land and I can feel the water and I can feel how present it is in your number plate, in your life. So I just really, I'm drawn to that, even though I don't know the stories, I don't know the people, and I apologize for that, but I can feel the land. And a big part of what I'm always drawn to is land and place. And I know that places have, that come with stories, and the fluidity of place and the people that move through these places. So I thought that I would start with a map, because this sense of your geography is so strong to me. It's such a unique geography where we are now, and the sense of storytelling from here, and this incredible river of yours, which is so famous globally. So this is a batik crackle map. It is made from Google satellite imagery. This is where I'm from. I'm from the corridor of the world. So my hometown is here. This is the island of Borneo. That's West Malaysia. Singapore is here. This is the island of Borneo. I'm from there. Thailand is here, and Vietnam. And this is China. Oh yeah, Japan. In the India and the Arab world, Madagascar, Horn of Africa, Australia. Just to place it, here is an edge of the Americas. Easter Island is down here. And these were our oceans. So the Bajau people that were nomadic sea people for millennia, these were our seas. And our geography has never been one of exclusivity. We come from a corridor, and things come like osmosis. We take, we don't take. And I really love the batik medium as a medium that comes from the region. It's also about wax, which resists, and the dye that stains through these cracks. And these cracks, these fissures, if you like, become the interconnectedness of the world. And it becomes our very nature of our fluid ability to shapeshift, to adjust. People move. The mobility of people is very much part of our storytelling. We don't have, in a sense, first people, because we have first, second, third. We have a multitude of people always. So even my people, I'm aware that I don't know who first, because there's this mobility of this land, and the land and the sea is the dominant that carries through. So you have land people, many, many land people, you have many, many sea people, and these are the two dominant geography of people in the environments that they dominate. So my work covers people from the land, or I work with people from the land, like my family, my grandmother, and people from the sea, who I'm new to. Well, I'm not new to, they're part of my community, but I'm not directly related by family to the sea people. But the sea and the land are always interconnected, the islands, the thousands and thousands of islands. So I just wanted to begin by, just as I feel your land, if you can imagine how much there is no separation between land and sea, in a sense that the sea is not empty. The sea is full of stories and people and communities, just as the land is. To fight for land rights is one thing, to fight for sea rights is a completely different kettle of fish and nearly impossible. So the stories are also have that urgency and desperateness in a way. And we're on the equator. So I think of Borneo bombastically as the heart of the world, because I said so. I think of the Congo and the Amazon as being lungs. We're all on the equator. We're sort of equidistant apart on the equator. And if we start to think about our land and our sea on a planetary level, of how interconnected our corridors are, and our land, of just how much we are part of each other's fluid movements. I also like to begin with this line to say that our people invented art, which is so bombastic when I'm here in the States and you have this incredible art history that we all read. But the first figurative art in the world 40,000 years ago was in my island, right? So I have claim to art, I have claim to storytelling. And when I come here, Erin's been talking about animals and plants and people's migration and stories. And we have the buffalo, you have the bison, right? And to me, my play company is called Kerbau Works, which is Buffalo Works. And I love the buffalo and the stories connected to buffalo and community. So I thought I'd throw this in because we are also the same. You also have a buffalo, a really big hairy one, but it's the bison is very similar, I think, culturally, in terms of importance to your communities and storytelling, as is our buffalo. And also that art, we have storytelling that I think there's an urgency to hear our stories and our relationships between the natural world and humanity. So I thought I'd throw that in. So this is called, this is Orang Besar series, Empires of Privateers and Their Glorious Ventures. So a lot of my practice is about seeing, recognizing, and understanding what power is. Power is often read as political power, but there's so much. Our geography is power, that we're a corridor. There's personal power, there's storytelling power. Power comes in many shapes. And power can also be different to different people. So I put in this slide because we come from island nation states. One of the major trade items through history has been cloth, cotton, silk, along with the tea and all of that. But I kind of, and these entrepots are sultanates. So we had a thriving, for 2000 plus years, a thriving corridor region between India, Arab world, China, pre-colonialism, where there's so much exchange happening. But these seas were run by the bosses of the time, the Orang Besar, the sultans, and they had their henchmen, much as you do in modern day. So I'm really interested in the language that came with colonialism connected to power. So these henchmen that controlled the waterways of Southeast Asia for the Southeast Asian Sultan. The word Southeast Asia is post-war, yeah. So we were not described as part of this. We had Nusantara, we have local names. But that person to the Sultan is a privateer. But when the colonial forces came in, they were regarded as the pirate because they were guarding their own waterways. And the people that came in were the privateers to the British Empire or to the Spanish or the Portuguese. So there's your freedom fighter is my terrorist. So there's always this dual aspect of power. This is batik again with photography. I'm just going to skip through. I'm looking at the shape of power. So the people will hold up the big man with the umbrella, or the golf umbrella in this case, who is responsible to hold up the people that hold him up. This is reciprocal relationship. So if you look at a lot of our contemporary economic strife, like our ex-prime minister just got put in jail, it's nepotism, but it's a nepotism where I need to look after my people need to look after me. I'm not excusing it at all, but it's understanding where this thinking comes from. The wealth of a man was not measured by how many buffalo he had or how many ships or how much land he had. It was how many people were dependent on him and how many people would hold him up. Because when you had people, you had an army. When you have an army, you can have new territory, you have economic force, agricultural force. So these are, I'm just sort of setting up what power on that level might look like. And these cloths are batik, and the medium of batik was the storytelling tool of women. They were predominantly made by women through time. So I'm telling this very male story through a female textile. This is our fluid world, a rousing account of migration in the language of the sea. Some people will say, well, that's not very nice. You're treating humanity as a kind of animal. But then from my point of view, this is the greatest animal of all time, right? This is the fluidity with the storytelling in your bags as you move. The sea is not an empty sea. The sea is traversing through spaces, encountering other stories, bringing your stories, always with your own stories, always with your own bags. The Hmong market here it's just incredible for me to see that, because it's this, the way people travel and the way people carry their stories is so powerful. And it's so beautiful that we have this richness across the globe as people migrate, and people have always migrated because the sea and the waterways are what encourage people to always move. Having said that, this is from Sulu Stories. Sulu is a contested sea between the Philippines and where I'm from in North Borneo, or Borneo, Malaysia, Malaysian Borneo. It's still a contested territory. So these are a couple that I met. They're related, cousins. One is, the woman is Malaysian and the guy is stateless. Our borders were made in 1963. We inherited them from colonial period. The hair of the woman, I don't know if, that makes up a mat. So that's Borneo, that's Mindanao. This is, so that it's this idea of a genetic memory where people from a region, from a sea, even though they travel, they share a kind of genetic memory. I'm very drawn to the turtle, because the turtle has a built-in GPS system. When a turtle is born on a beach, it will travel the world for 20, 30 years, and then it will know in its GPS genetic memory of where home is, and it will go back to the exact same beach it was hatched on in order to lay its eggs. And I think of our 59-year-old border in a fluid world as being really abrasive and violent to this fluid memory that allowed people to shift and move. So this is I'm going to zoom through these. I just wanted to introduce this idea of land. So those who are sea people, these are land people. This is my family. It's my sister in the Hominodon, which is our creation story. The goddess Huminundu created the earth. She created fertility. Her husband, who is a partner, who is also God, created the universe. So it was this partnership between a male and female God. The central image is like a museum diorama of my family, and it's the same image. My mountain, Mount Kinabalu, is central to this triptych, though hidden behind clouds. My sister, the goddess Hominodun, who sacrificed her body in order that the community would have food. So rice, the most important of these, comes from her body. The root crops, the fruit crops, 7 categories of food. And there's this relationship between women and agriculture and the land, which dominates so much of our storytelling. And even in contemporary times, the relationship between women and land is and the agriculture industries has actually become really vital to the health of communities. And as a woman's power is her ability to grow and nurture, and the fertility that comes of land and of your body for some women, but it's also beyond your singular body, but the health of your community via the health of your land, which I think is incredibly powerful. So that's me, that's my shadow on this far corner here on the, for you left. I'm looking in on my family. That's my grandmother, that's me as a baby. That's my grandmother, and me as a baby. So that's the, because I work a lot with archives. I thought I'd show you some of my process, but I didn't like her grumpy face, so I changed it to her smiley face. And these are all family photographs. So I wanted to show you some of my process. This is the joy of doing a talk that's in this kind of environment. So that's my mom with her Air New Zealand bag. My parents met at university in New Zealand. These are the high priestesses, the Bobo Hizan of my grandmother's village. It's my grandmother. That's a finger knife. You cut rice 1 stalk at a time, but at an incredible speed. And my first generation civil service father, and what it meant for him to be the first generation of civil service post-colonial period, post-British. This is me, the buffalo, answering back, as I often do. So I'm an argumentative, recalcitrant buffalo. This is the Federal Administrative Center of Kuala Lumpur with native inspired tiles on this pavement, but it covers the land. This is the Finance Department and the International Trade Center, and it's about the covering of this land. Oil palm has now come in. So before it's about that's oil palm as well, it's the scouring of the land. That's Hominodun's hair, the goddess of fertility and agricultural women's generosity. So it's been covered by people often with oil palm. It's a very, very complex topic. You cannot say good, bad, because it's so complex. It's the state, so many lives are dependent on it. So it's arrogant to say bad, full stop. But it needs to diversify. I'll talk about this in a minute. But women plant the paddy, women harvest the paddy, women look after the spiritual well-being of paddy bean rice, women sell it at the marketplace. Often with oil palm, they'll talk about environmental issues like the orangutan. They never talk about women's roles, how women are dislocated from the land and they buy their rights at the supermarket. And then we get to picturing power. So all of that work kind of led me to what some of you may have seen at MIA. And I wanted to kind of introduce all my work is like an ongoing exploration for me to understand better. So this series came about when I was invited to join a photo historian called Alexander Supartorno from Jakarta in Indonesia. And he was doing his PhD studies on colonial photography through a Dutch lens at the Tropen Museum. So he'd brought thousands of photographs taken by the Dutch during the colonial period in Indonesia, and we were reading them. So some people were reading the sugarcane industry, the sugar industry. So everyone had kind of zoned in on different things. I became really struck by the table. And then I started to ask myself a really basic question of how do you colonize someone? Like, how do you make yourself more important than somebody else? How do you be higher and put someone down, right? And then it was this discovery of this table. So rather than an army of guns and that kind of violence, which is a terrible violence, which takes away freedoms, you get shot by a gun, you would die, you live in a state of fear of guns. But colonialism has guns, but it's not just guns. Colonialism is the table. It's the violence of administration. It's the violence of map making. It's the violence of surveyors. It's the violence of the census, of universities, the education system, of museums, of language, what is considered of value and what is not considered of value and should be discarded or discouraged or ignored. That kind of violence enters your DNA. That kind of violence tells you who you are, who your children and who your children's children. It is inherited violence. And that kind of violence is debilitating. And I live in a part of Southeast Asia where we feel that we are still under a state of being colonized by federal Malaysia, far away overseas in the peninsular part of West Malaysia. I'm in the east part of Malaysia in Borneo. So we have a brown on brown violence. So it's very, very hard to communicate what it feels like, but we don't have our own films in the cinema. We don't have we don't share. We are not present in the media. Our languages are replaced by homogenized national languages. So it's this constant feeling that that administration is taking over your life in really very literal ways. This is another example from Mia of this. When you make maps, it's a very violent way to collect data of a place and enter the land. In violent language, you're entering the land with data, which might mean that you start extractive mining, or you will identify whether a tree is a softwood for the paper industry or a hardwood for building and furniture. So everything is this data collection. And when you enter land with data collection, it is not collecting the data of storytelling. It is not collecting the data of some other kind of knowledges and information where the land and the waterways are rich with another kind of data. It's this extractive data when it comes with this table. the shapes of body language, the body politic. If we start reading what body politic means in literal ways and in physical performative ways with the body, in relationship to power, and who are the partners in power. And with education, schools, of changing who you are, to civilize you, to give you new knowledges, what that might mean. I know there's issues about schools, especially in Canada in recent years. So what is that violence? And they're just teaching you how to read, and but what else is happening in that process of gaining more knowledge, which everyone should do, but what else is lost, and what is denied within education systems? Because it's not all education systems are the same, the way they approach education. So this is a reminder that this happens at the table, and what the table might mean to this conversation. The series actually ends, the exhibition at MIA, the order is not of the order of the original installation, but it should end with these two images. The guy that's in the triangular form is, this was taken by an American surveyor. Actually, I have the details. Oh, I didn't put it here though. Oh, my titles are really, really bombastic. And it's meant to trigger into a line of thinking. The guy looking through the theodolite, which is surveyor's instruments, is looking at a now naked woman in a contemporary office environment, architectural space. None of my work is about the past. I draw from history in the past to talk about now and the contemporary, and also to preempt the future. So in a way, I'm making artwork for the future to mark this time now for people that will be coming. So that's also a certain amount of arrogance and privilege that I think I have as an artist, to be able to traverse time in the fluidity of storytelling. Everything for me is about this fluidity of being able to shapeshift always. That's the world I come from. So I honor that also in terms of why I make art. The times that I make art for are multiple. So this guy has learned colonial tools, right? Having experienced colonialism for a few hundred years, World War II hits, the colonies, the colonial forces are leaving Southeast Asia. What is left are the tools of power, and how that is then used on our own people and the violence of that. I should say that pre-colonial period, there were no tables in Southeast Asia at all, in island Southeast Asia. That's the sea part, because we also have northern Southeast Asia, which is Indochine countries, Vietnam, Laos, Cambodia. But I'm from the island part, which is Philippines, Malaysia, Indonesia, Brunei, Timor. So we did not have any tables. We had mats. Every community had a map making tradition. Mats are like maps. You can read the geography they come from, whether they're pandanus from a coastal region or they're bamboo from the interior. You can read certain things. They're intergenerational, they're multilingual. Neighboring communities can read the motifs of a map. So just as you read coded language in your art theory histories, or how you might make associations as you read icons or symbols and signage, so was it with map making of a millennia with many, many names. The word for table in the Philippines Tagalog is mesa. In the Malay language of Indonesia, Malaysia, Singapore, it is meja, M-E-J-A. Both of this comes from the Portuguese and Spanish word for table, which is mesa. So even the word that we have in our languages come from the Spanish and the Portuguese. The Spanish and Portuguese, because the Pope divided the world in half. Half were the Portuguese, half were the Spanish. And they met in my place, between the border of Borneo and Philippines. It's where the Portuguese and the Spanish met. So picturing power is this, for me, it was a moment in my life when I realized, when I saw the table. Then, this is in 2013. And going back to picturing power, I started going back, because this is the last image, but I'm going back. So I started to see Dreamtime space, or I started to see land in terms of the table and in terms of the non-table. I hadn't quite found the mat yet, but I'm leading to the mat. And this was a process where by seeing the table first, I was seeing the effects of table, both it on the topography of landscape. And to me, like in Minnesota, with the topography of your landscape, of how much you can feel the stories from here. Like you just know there's a lot of stories here. You know there's a lot of people here. I can feel it. So there must be. I just know there. I don't know the details. I'm a visitor. But if I stayed here, I would learn, right? What the stories are and what that other kind of knowledge that you can't quite put your finger on, but you sense it, this sensory knowledge, right? Versus the monocrop. Our first monocrop in Southeast Asia was sugarcane, the great poisoner of humanity, right? It's absolutely useless. All it does is makes things sweet. It gives you nothing. We should all avoid sugar. It's a poison of our times, right? And it's the poison of our landscape. It was the monocrop means that you kill diversity. You have one plant over massive, valley after valley. After sugarcane came rubber, which financed the world wars. Then we now have oil palm. And those women that were in charge, our creation stories about women, agriculture, community, economy, spirituality are disconnected from all of that because the monocrop came in and they no longer work in the land. So removing women from land is removing women from community, from storytelling, from spirituality. And in our current times now with the crisis of climate change, to me, women, communities, land, food security has to become of vital importance. The monocrop, the lack of diversity of the richness of land and recognizing that needs to be addressed. In my experience, this is another version. This Putrajaya is the name of our federal capital, like Washington, DC. So we become also like a crop. We become the same. We're there to be harvested for that finance center of the earlier triptych, for the international trade, for you guys to, where your soya bean and our oil palm, we're all interrelated, right? And this is the identity card, and it's the making of sameness. And this landscape, this haunting, again, I'm very drawn that turtle, the genetic memory of home, the genetic memory of place. I know that mountain is my mountain. It's personal, it's my mountain. Borneo to me is the heart of the world. It's my heart of the world. It comes from this knowledge. And there's this hair, it's all the way through my practice as carrying data. It's another kind of data. It's symbolic of a forensic data, but it's also a connection to ancestry, to even storytelling, to mythology, to all kinds of things. So this series, like the banana tree at the gate, this is in reference to a book called Banana Tree at the Gate, which was also inspired by the Sultan of Banjarmasin in South Borneo, Borneo Island, Indonesia now. But it's looking at how in sort of post-war period, I don't want to take too long, how I was looking at the power of women. I'm always looking at power. Please look up the Gawani feminist movement of Indonesia in 1950s, with close to 2 million peasant women members fighting for land rights, marriage rights, education rights, inheritance rights. They were heroes. They were political. They had a socialist party. They were aligned with the Indonesian Communist Party. Under the first president, Sukarno, they were accepted and celebrated. But then on the rise of Suharto, to diminish the power of women, he used folk stories. But you all know that Asian woman with the hair over her face. She is transborder, fluidity, crossing borders, never been fixed, never claiming ownership. There is no ownership. Everything is shared. So she belongs to us, and she's called Pontianak. She belongs to Indonesia. She's called Kuntilanak. She belongs to Philippines. She's called Aswang. She's everywhere. This woman, same thing, same this monstrous woman in our folktale. And then Suharto started talking about the women's feminist movement as this bunch of Pontianak Kuntilanak women from our folk stories that my grandmother, go brush your hair, you look like Pontianak, right? It's so much part of our everyday storytelling. And Suharto used that language to make the monstrous feminine, to take power and ability to have power from the women. The rivers of Indonesia would run red with the blood of babies that these monstrous women would kill because they were unwilling to be mothers. They were too busy being political and fighting for land rights. You know, and it was this kind of language that drew from our own folktales that demonized these women and made them into monsters. And I find that process of using our storytelling back on us so fascinating because it was so effective. And the Gawani women were persecuted like a witch hunt, thrown in jail. To this day, it's very hard to use the word Gawani. They were accused of killing the 7 generals. I mean, there's so much, I don't have time, but it's worth reading to look at feminist movements from other parts of the world, and this is a really special one. There's an amazing Dutch sociologist called Saskia Wieringa. Read her, I'll tell Erin. Anyway, she's a favorite. So it's this idea, you know, here you have women must be at the table. Okay, what does that mean? What table? Whose table? Which women? So all these things are like, and it's never about the past. It's always about the now, right? So these are the kinds of questions I'm always, and what table is it? So these are all women buffalo, because I'm obsessed by the buffalo, right? So we've had a lot of street protests. And what I also love about the buffalo is the way they obstinately claim the street. And they sit on there, and no matter how much you toot or whatever, they're going to sit on that nice warm spot on the road. And to me, I started thinking about populists in these ways of thinking about the buffalo, this hardworking, stubborn, recalcitrant taker of the streets and occupier of the streets, and how they claimed storytelling. The first figurative art made by humanity was a buffalo. What might we read into that? What might this buffalo teach us, right? So, and of Southeast Asia, this is the kitschiest of the kitsch animals. This is the one that's on the postcards with the coconut tree and the dugout boat. It's our kitsch. But kitsch comes from somewhere. I love kitsch. Milan Kundra's The Unbearable Lightness of Being, my favorite book on describing political kitsch, of how to move a mass of people, how to get people to when a politician can get into everybody's heads and push them in a certain way and like hypnotize people, that is our kitsch. And they're operating on a language of political kitsch. And I just find it so fascinating. So this is also part of our kitsch. We understand the ghost, the Pontianak woman. We understand the buffalo. So these are the kinds of elements that I bring into my lexicon of as an artist, the languages that I speak visually to talk about power and other kinds of power, to find our powers. And then I went home in 2016, 2017, and I remembered my oh my God, 10 minutes. Okay, so I talk too much. I can talk for 5 hours. That's, so I discovered the mat. That's me. That's me. That's my sister. That's my grandmother that you met earlier. That's my New Zealand mom. Whoops. And these are the bundusan mats of my grandmother's village. And when I remembered she was a weaver, she died after I graduated university. I was in my 20s. I was a grown-up, right? But I never paid attention to the weaving. And then I went, oh, the mat, the table. It's like, oh my God. I just like, oh, I understood power like in a moment, right? And then I went, okay, what is she weaving? What plant was it? And I asked my dad, he said, bundusan. I go, bundusan? Bundusan is the name of a highway for me. It's the name of a road. I didn't even know it was the name of a plant. Then I couldn't find the plant. Then I couldn't find an example of the weaving. Then I couldn't find someone who knew how to treat it. Now I have, but at that, it took me ages. And then I realized it's not just our rhino that went extinct in 2016, it literally did. But our knowledges were going, our mediums were going, our storytelling, our vessels we hold gatherings was going. And that just sent me on this whole journey. The mat, these are the examples of how people sit on the ground. Over there is a dowry. The plain mats are used in ritual, colorful mats in celebration. Then I went in search of mat makers. So these are the community from the sea who were not my grandmother's people. Not my grandmother is inland. These are sea people, stateless. They've traveled the seas between the southern Philippines, Indonesia, Borneo, and Malaysian Borneo for 1,000 years. And they, except for Rosia wearing the tudung, she's Malaysian. This is Kak Pudi, Kak Sana, they're stateless. They have no paper identity or the rich cultural identity. So we started collaborating in 2018, just before COVID, thank goodness. That's one of the biggest blessings, that we were already in the habit of working together when COVID hit. And we started juxtaposing the table and the mat, not to negate either, but to recognize them. To me, to decolonize is to see the table and to see the mat. And when you see different systems of power, you can kind of understand what power is, what power looks like, how you can negotiate it. You can ask yourself, where is the table in this scenario? Where is the mat in this scenario? And it's not to negate one, but it's to recognize it. And when you recognize political structure, then you can dance around it, which is what I've been doing for the last few years. So this was at Art Basel Unlimited just in July. That's the scale of this, it's huge. It's 16 mats made by stateless women. So when COVID hit, tourism, which is, our state is so dependent on tourism and the finances of an economy of tourism, I went into war mode. Because they had no tourists, no income, no seafood restaurant with the Chinese insatiable diet for exotic seafood, with their husbands are all fishermen. No sale of any, no tourists, no money, right? So then we went into overdrive. So during COVID, there's something like 50 families. The more that would come, that would make, the better, because it was a form of income. And I had no exhibition in mind, but I knew I would. I had faith in the art world. I had the privilege of the art world. And I thank the art world for giving me that, an outlet to generate. We were making economy. That's what we made during the COVID. We were making a circular economy based on restorative and regenerative principles. We were lifting up the mat in a situation where people have, where the table dominates. No medical, no education, no nothing. My collaborators were, some of them were 9 years old. We did a survey of the mats, the tables on the island, because they don't necessarily have tables. So this one is the teacher's table. And so we did, they made a, you call this a lectern, podium? They made this because the politician would put his speech. So there's one table that looks like this. I'm going to zoom through. This one, I just wanted to put it in I cried. So this was one of our biggest, earliest mats. And the image, the one with black, the black, there's 11 or 9 black tables, 5 minutes. And then they were so proud of this huge mat. So I said, weave your names into the back, because, you know, all my work, they're named. Everyone who's involved gets named in the process. Some of them are illiterate, but they weave their names anyway. And then I asked them, okay, this is, everyone's so proud of themselves. I said, okay, let's give the mat a name. And immediately Kak Budi says, Tepo Ania Nombonya, which means a mat with a number. And I'm like, oh, that's such a weird. And then I went, oh my God, I get it. Tears started coming out, because they don't have a number, they don't exist, they're stateless. So the most precious thing they could give this really important massive mat that they made was to give it a number, that it exists, that it is, that it counts, that it's not invisible. And I had tears coming down. And this is the gang of weavers that made Tepo Ania. So we've been working together since 2018 now. And Tikar ribbon, this is an index, it's a dictionary artwork. It's a collection of counting patterns and rhythm patterns that stretches between the Malaysian part of the island and the stateless community. It's a part of a video work. There's Kak Sana in the front. She is the master weaver with so much, illiterate, but so much knowledge in her mind. And so what we did was we made a bridge across geopolitics. We made a cultural bridge containing language, multi-generational, multilingual, across borders, to celebrate the fluidity of our geography, of nomadic sea peoples that have traversed corridors. This was a piece that I'm including some, I believe artists should keep sort of public diaries of process. So I've grabbed some of my Instagram posts, and this is a map that I was invited to make a work for the foyer of the National Gallery of Singapore, writing Southeast Asian art history, but are we present in terms of the peoples of Southeast Asia that actually live in Southeast Asia? There's so much where we look up to the Western art canon, where we have these great centers like New York, right? And they become dictatorial in what is considered art or important or storytelling or the ways of translating what art means or communicating what art means. And we invented art 40,000 years ago, right? The first figurative art. I want to, you know, we're cool too, man. We got stories, right? So I kind of, so on this invitation to make an artwork for the public foyer space of this massive museum, I had to make it with people, and people that live and come from this, where the materials grow in the land, where the storytelling is from our geography and our place, as fluid and as shape-shifting as we are, always. And then because I work with sea people and I work with land people, I needed to have sea people and land people because that is Southeast Asia, sea people and land people, water people, land people. And I asked them if they wanted to work on a piece. And they said, no, I don't know your weave. I don't know your plant. I don't know your geography. But I have, so then we did a two-sided map. So this is, so we do doa selamat, which is like a prayer ritual. When we made, this is the sea people, so we took it everywhere. Before we took it to a museum, I had to give it to the community. They get to show up. I get to show off in places like this, and my face and my voice is here. But they needed to do that before it ends in the museum, because once it enters in the museum, they can't fly. They don't have a passport. They don't have a nationality. So it's really important that they presented the work first. So this was at an international conference. Then we presented it at Sabah Park. People were dancing on it. Students were doing their lectures on it. We took it to town. Everyone had an opportunity to carry it. We presented it at the Lepa Regatta, which is an annual boat race of hand-carved boats. They're front and center always. And they get to present it to their home community. This is the core team of the seaside. And then I take the mat to the interior, to Keningau. And these are the dusun and, oh, just now, I don't know if I said, they were Bajau and Bajau Sama de Laut, Bajau Laut weavers. These are dusun and Murut weavers, and they work with the bamboo of the jungle. So they were making the other half of the mat. This is my gang. We had two guys. One guy's become, Sharizan, we call him Didi. He's second from the end. He's core to our team now. Very rare for men to join the weaving team. And we were inventing all the time. These are incredible weaves. If you get to go to New York before November 5th, please go to Silverlands Gallery, 24th West Street, 505. So this weave we invented on the bottom left, this weave here, we invented this when we were trying to achieve an optical illusion. And it's a complicated weave because you weave into yourself and you can get stuck with like a maze where you can't move anymore. And so we named it in the Murut language, Mansau Ansau, which means to travel and walk and journey without knowing where you're going. And that to me was just really apt for our whole journey together. And then we hung it in the museum. So this is Kak Rosia from the island. This is Kak Jolita from the interior. And they were so proud of their two-sided mat. And I was so proud of them. We were all so proud of each other. And it was really, really special to install this mat at the museum with all the stories behind it. So zooming along. This is a photographic series called Picturing Power, where I often work with archives. And I also work with kind of a visual notation constantly going. I don't know if you have it here, but in our local architecture, we have the central pillar of a home. It's called the Tiang Sri. It's the female pillar that holds up the home. It's the central column within traditional architecture, and the mat as a platform or a stage, calling you to commune together, that comes from the roots and from the ground, with this hair idea of being interconnected. All of it is this interconnection of understanding what home and place is, storytelling, and the woman's role in that. And the mat as an architectural site to invite people to commune and share together. And the ghosts of the table, to decolonize is also to address these ghosts, these shadows that come from this long history of the colonial period and the dominance and violence of the colonial table. So I started going into architectural space, the louver window, which is perfect for tropical weather because of the control, the hot and cold of air and controlling the movement of air. This triggered a sequence called the Tikar sequence, which is named after a weave, Tikar, which looks like a step, like stairs. But the Morot weavers also told me, like Tikar, like the roof of your mouth. So the roof of your mouth, your palate, has ridges. And those ridges become more pronounced. If you consume something too hot, too cold, too acidic, your palate becomes triggered. And I thought, oh my God, architectural space. Between the deeply personal and the public is this mouth. What you might consume and what I'm doing now, which is vomiting out, is what is coming out of you, this between site. As a site of trigger, both what comes in and what comes out, what you feed yourself, what comes out of you, what you choose to say, how you choose to vomit, or all of that between the personal and the public, this interface space. So we were working on this architectural work. These are interior spaces where we're flipping the table, there's corridors. And this one's on show in New York. We started to talk about how we can make three-dimensional space on a 2D plane. When you see this in real life, you can enter the mat, you can enter the corridors. So these amazing weavers who have made thousands and thousands of tourist baskets have no idea how powerful and strong they are and how skilled they are. So I would come up with these, my arrogance again is that I'm unknowing. So I don't know, that's a really big ask to ask a weaver to do that because I don't know weaving. So I'd ask ridiculous things and they'll go, oh, Yee-Lann, no, we can't do that. And then we now go, let's play the most important four-letter word in the English language. None of the other four-letter words are any fun without play, right? So I always say, play, 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 let's play. So then in the process of playing, so important to play, and the time it takes to play, we discovered how incredible they are. And so now with these weavers, we talk about shades of gray when you've only got white and black, and how you increase the white weave and the black weave to make shades of gray. So this is a series that's going to be 7 mats. This is the last one we've done, which is 4. So this interior scene is going to break into the digital pixel, the woven digital pixel, the desktop, another world. So at the end of these 7 mats, we enter the digital pixel of the desktop and the table and the weaving, the woven pixel, the weft and the wharf, the 1 and the 0. That's where we're heading on the following works. I just wanted to throw these in. We made karaoke mats because a lot of the time storytelling is is in your mind, and you're thinking and seeing without knowing. So if you start reading this, you'll start recognizing songs and storytelling the world over. And what you do is you provide a soundtrack in your mind, but it's sharing again, it's shared knowledge via the karaoke. You know, we can all sing every single song here. All of you will know every song. This was shown at Art Basel just recently. This one is an act of resistance. So this is in the Dusun language to argue against the dominance of Malay popular culture in federal Malaysia. And when you sing this, you belong to your place and your people. And the songs trigger the knowing of a place. And then we made one for Hong Kong in the Cantonese language, So with all the troubles with the umbrella movement they're having with mainland China, when you sing these songs, which I don't know because I don't read Chinese, but we were collaborating with Hong Kong people. Hong Kong people will know these Cantonese songs are about Hong Kong people, not mainland people. So even though the songs are about love and nothing in particular, they know that these songs are deeply about them. They sing it at weddings. And they're ordinary songs, but they're loved. It's the politics of kitsch. It's the sharing the mat, karaoke as a mat. Where's the mat? Where's the table? How can we share a mat? What things can we share that bring people together, that create understanding, that act in your mind without you knowing even? And then this video, Erin may show, I'm zooming through. I just want to talk about this because it's really, Erin, please bear with me. So Tamu is the name of the pre-colonial traditional farmers market. So the mountain people over there would meet the jungle people from over there, would meet the river people from over there, and the plains people and the sea people. And they always meet at a site that's next to the river because the river is the highway. Minnesota, Mississippi is this highway, this vital highway from time before time, kind of storytelling, right? So the people from the plains that grew the rice, everyone comes with their own produce, their own thing, right? Whatever trading thing they have, right? So the plains people would bring the rice, the sea people would bring the salt, and then you meet at the marketplace. And then I need you. It's not that I'm looking for you, it's that I need you. There's a difference. It's not that I tolerate you, it's that I need you. I need the diversity. I need you and your world. And me in my world, you need me in my world. The land people need the salt. Otherwise you get, goiter's problem, which is very common when land people don't get the sea or they don't have minerals. It's why elephants lick a mineral rock to get the salt. And the sea people, they can't live on fish alone. They need the rice. Right? So there's this need. And when you meet at the marketplace, you gossip. When you gossip, you fall in love. When you might fight. All this, everything that happens at the marketplace is the juicy stuff. And everything that happens on that sharing of that mat is, in my mind, the beginning of, or it is our truer state of a social political landscape, of an architectural space that is fundamentally connected with the communing and gathering people over the market mat that you have your produce on. And this idea that tanah means land and the I means sea or water. Two different words in the Malay language. So land and sea. When you compound it together, it becomes tanah ai. Tanah ai means homeland. And in our politics, we've had concerted effort, which dates hundreds of years, to make land people and sea people hate each other. That there's great xenophobia and prejudice and discrimination that is cultivated in Sabah so that we cannot speak with a united voice against that colonizing brown on brown power that comes from Kuala Lumpur. So to all of what I'm doing is just so we can fight against these bigger forces. We need to speak as a homeland that is vastly different from land people and sea people are not the same. They're so different, but they need to come together we need each other, just like we need the salt and the rice. And to me, my role as an artist, I'm the and. So I love and, because and to me, that's land and sea. Tanah ai as one word, compound word means homeland. But I think of myself that my ambition is to be an and. When you're an and, in my mind, you're always inviting difference. You're inviting opposites or difference to come together, to conjoin in some manner, to dance together. Jack and Jill. It's this coming together that I think we've to me is what the mat is, right? coming together, and this fluidity of shape-shifting and making, when you're sitting on a mat, you rearrange your body a bit better so the other person's more comfortable and they'll lie on your thigh. You know, all this kind of stuff is performative, a mat. And there's so much power in that space. So I'm going to end now. So rather than think like colonial power, rather than think like the table, which invented the census, which nowadays everyone wants their neat little box, the LGBT, ableism, classism, ageism, your racial distinctions of which people you are, what is your box, how do I identify? So important that you feel seen, so important that you have presence. Then what? We need the globe, our politics, our way forward is to break open those boxes that we make for ourselves and to sit and share. This is a box opened up, like homeless people, when they open the cardboard box, they make a mattress, they make a mat, they have a place to sleep. I feel that's what the world needs to do, is that we recognize the differences, we see you, we see your difference. Everyone needs to feel that they are seen and they have that presence. But the danger is that we continue in the language of violence, the language of the table. So what I want the world to head towards is a language where, precisely because you have salt and I have rice, we need to share a mat in order that together we are healthier, the planet is healthier, our geographies, our land and our sea is healthier. To me, there is no difference between talking about the mat and talking about climate change or community or women and agriculture. It's all about the language of power and space and our ability to shapeshift and make space for people and to find people and need people who are not me, the opposite of me. That's the person that's the most important person to me, that they see me and I see them. And then when that happens, you smash the box, you share the mat, then you don't know what will happen next. And I think that's where the world needs to go, is to share the space of that knowledge, the space where you can share a karaoke song, these kinds of things. And on that happy note, flip the table, lift the tikar, the mat. And these are the languages of my various peoples that I now work with. Kotohadan, Pansikau, Maksukul, terima kasih, and thank you to all of you. And that's my website. Yeah. Sorry, I did not stop. I need to drink. So I was trying to squash in a lot, and I hope it wasn't too squashed in. I hope you're following. Yeah.